guys, the Fire Brothers here. It's just me with my bee helmet. Yeah, I know, it's been a while. Everyone calm down. And my brother couldn't be here today because he leaked Rise of the Beast and is now hiding from the FBI. I hope you guys are enjoying the jokes because there's no refunds available. Anyways, Transformers War for Cybertron Netflix trilogy. A very controversial series for some Transformers fans. Now in the past I've been very critical of the War for Cybertron Netflix trilogy, and while recently I kinda began to appreciate it more, it's still not my favorite series out there for a variety of reasons. So cut to a few months back, I get an email from a mysterious source claiming to give me the opportunity to have an interview with the director of the series himself and get a special early look at this art and making of the Transformers War for Cybertron trilogy, written by Mike Abella and forwarded by FJ DeSanto. So yeah, it turned out to be real, and now I'm here making a review of the book because it has so much cut content from the series and little like juicy pieces of info that I thought it was worth its own video because we all love cut content on this channel, don't we? We also had an interview with the director of the series. You guys can go and check out that video. It's probably out by now. A while back I asked you guys for your questions as to, what should I ask the director of the series, and you guys asked certain stuff like, which character survived, like why X character wasn't in the series, did you have original plans for certain characters, how did Spinister survive, most of all of those questions are answered, and you can go get your answers by checking out that video. In this video I'll just be primarily going over the book and sprinkle some stuff from the interview here and there for extra context. So anyways, let's just jump into it. So first off, how does the book fare? Well, it's pretty solid, and it's actually not that big. Here, let me show you. I'm gonna measure this by the only way Transformers fans know how to measure stuff, with Transformers figures. Here we see the book right next to Core Class Ravage. Here we see it right next to Core Class Iguanus. Here right next to the Lux Class RC. Here we got it right next to Voyager Ultra Magnus. Here we have it right next to Leader Class Dark of the Moon Megatron. Finally, here we have it right next to Combiner Wars Megatronia. And as you can see, this book is about a Combiner Toll. The book comes with this cover of Optimus Prime, and at the back, you got Megatron. You're probably seeing these images floating around in Hasbro's marketing quite a bit, and this book's no exception. If you remove the flapjack, you'll actually see that inside you'll see the Autobot and Decepticon insignias. I low-key wish it was the Mercenary logo, cause I feel like the Mercenaries were the coolest thing in that show, but I get why adding the Autobot and Decepticon insignias there makes the most amount of sense. The book itself is about 191 pages. Which might sound like a lot for some people, but really it's not that long of a read. It's pretty short, digestible, because most of the book itself is covered by, walls of text and pictures, which are distributed along the pages pretty nicely actually. It honestly didn't take me that long to finish reading the book. I say it was like about a day or so. I'm a pretty fast reader, so I just digested through this. If you get this, I think it's mostly for the amazing art that we see here, because there's a lot of really cool art that we seen glimpses of on the internet, but we never have full-on HD, really clear, amazing, refined artwork. Some of those involve like character art, a few wallpapers, posters, art from exclusive toy lines like the Amazon exclusive packs or some of the HasLab stuff. A lot of the artwork here is really clear looks into stuff that we only seen glimpses of, or we seen glimpses of in very low resolution on the internet, and it's all here and it looks phenomenal. However, my favorite section will have to be the character section, where it basically, details some of the characters, their personalities, their backgrounds, how they look like and stuff like that. And it even gives us exclusive info on some things we never knew about. For example, we finally know why some characters like Bumblebee, RC, and a few others never transform in the series. Like here, if you check... wait, that's the wrong page.
One eternity later.
Okay, here we go, page 38. I'm gonna read what this says for Bumblebee. The Energon Scabbard turned Autobot Scout initially wanted no part in the war, But when Ultra Magnus' death triggers the Alpha Trion protocols, Bumblebee inherits them. He encounters the spirit of Alpha Trion shortly after and decides he can no longer stay on the sidelines, so he joins the Autobots. Bumblebee is an undersized Transformers bot and, in the context of this series, not able to convert into a vehicle. His ingenuity, courage, and evasiveness makes him a key member of the Autobots. So that's pretty much the reason why Bumblebee never transforms in the show itself, because he's an undersized bot. I unfortunately never asked, FJ for further details in our interview, but I'm guessing what that means and what a lot of people have been interpreting is that, he just doesn't have the mass to transform into anything. Of course, FJ cleared in my interview that the reason why he didn't transform is because he didn't want him to turn into a saucer because he thought it would look ridiculous. Which, fair enough, I agree with that. But all we have is the book explanation, so it seems that that's actually the case. Some characters just don't have enough parts or enough mass to transform into any kind of vehicle. So the book itself splits into 6 different chapters. Chapter 1 is the origins of the show, how it was conceptualized. Chapter 2 talks about Siege. Chapter 3 talks about Earthrise, Chapter 4 talks about Kingdom, while Chapter 5 dwells into the world building of the universe, and Chapter 6 briefly talks about the toys. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but the highlight of this book, it's the art. The art is amazing. As a big art aficionado, I love a lot of the artwork I'm seeing here, especially because, if you look on Google for any of these images, you'll find low res, low quality ones, while here, it's everything as high as definition and you can get into physical world. But as you can see here, you can see this amazing concept art of Elita-1. I know she kinda looks like RC, but trust me, this is how Elita-1 was originally gonna look like in the series before she was changed into the Elita-1 we're all familiar with. And since we're at the topic of Elita-1, the world building section makes an interesting claim about her. And I'm not sure how canon this is, like the book itself, taking it by, face value as canon is kind of tricky. But according to the book, it is in fact hinted that between Elita-1 and Megatron, there was something going on. Yes, all those Megatron X Elita-1 shippers, they weren't as crazy as we initially thought. They were actually kinda right. The book even implies, hey, I think those two might have something. There might be something there we're not telling you guys. So the book pretty much implies that Elita-1 and Megatron might have been a thing, which just blows my mind. So now we have a love triangle. Elita-1 wants Optimus, Optimus wants to kill Megatron, and Megatron sorta wants Elita-1. We come full circle, boys! The book itself is also littered with Transformers references from multiple continuities. From G1 to Beast Wars to Prime to even somewhat animated, but don't expect to see a lot of movie stuff because, it's the farthest thing from G1 as you can get. The book is clearly made for people who have watched the series, though I have to say you don't exactly have to have watched the series to enjoy the book itself. You just being a Transformers fan period is more than enough, and the book does a good enough job itself basically detailing you the plot of each part of the trilogy. So while you don't need to watch the trilogy, it is still highly recommended you do, so at least you get a better understanding of a lot of the context and many of the things the book is talking about. But again, it's recommended that you have watched the series so you get a better enjoyment out of some of these things. And again, the book has a lot of unused concept art and unused plans and ideas that never made into the show, which I think are really interesting. And just to give you an example of one of them, take a look at this. Does this seem familiar to you? That's right, that's actually the artwork that we saw for Transformers Earthrise of the Autobots landing on Earth. But looks like originally the Autobots were gonna land in some kind of arachnoid planet. Again, I'm not saying that was gonna be the case, that 100%, oh yeah, Arachnoid Planet where they're gonna meet Black Arachne and a bunch of other Arachne Transformers was planned. No, it's just a concept art, it could mean a lot of things, but the fact that the whole planet hopping thing from Earthrise was even considered, like that tells you a lot right away. And it opens the door for a lot of fun speculation of what could have been. So overall, I do recommend you get this book. It's actually a really great read, especially if you're a Transformer fan of any kind. And if you like the Netflix series even more, I think this is a must-have for you. Well, I personally didn't enjoy the series as much as some people did. I still think this book is fascinating, just going through the creative process as to how it was made and how the show was conceptualized itself. If you're an aspiring, TV producer, director, writer, anything like that, you might want to give this book a read because it does go over some of the process of how it was made, and a little bit is very fascinating and intriguing. Besides, you, a Transformers fan, why would you read some dusty old book when you can be reading a Transformers book? And like I said before about the book, it's basically a combiner tool, so it's gonna look very nicely with my collection over there. So that's pretty much my general thoughts on the book. Really good, or recommend. Well, you know what you guys are really here for. That juicy, sweet info lore. I already fed you some breadcrumbs to the whole, planet hopping concept art and Elita-1 X Megatron being a thing. So you guys might be asking, fire, is there more? And well, we haven't even begun yet, son. So I'm not gonna mention every single little detail because we'll be here all day and I don't think I'm allowed to. But I'll mention a decent chunk of stuff because at least the stuff I found the most interesting. The rest I'll probably do a video on into future, or you might have to read the book yourself to find out because I still need to reread the book to make sure I haven't missed anything. Alright, so first off, much like we suspected, Galvatron was actually the leader of Cybertron and he led the Cybertronians to rebel against the Quintessons, much like we suspected. However, the book actually states that Galvatron might still be alive, despite being killed by Megatron and then having his ghost, so to speak, deleted from the Galvatron protocols. The book itself states that his consciousness still pervades the Matrix. This pretty much confirms that Galvatron lives in one way or another, and it also confirms that he's actually a Prime, despite not carrying the Prime moniker. Another piece of detail that I'm not sure got used in the show is that, much like how Jetfire had his Energon blade, Elita-1 was actually supposed to have one too. That would have been really useful when she got captured by Shockwave, you know? Much like his G1 counterpart and Myriad, Hound has the ability to produce holograms in the series. Kind of a shame we never saw him do that, but it's still pretty cool to know. Now for some facts on the MVP of the show, the coolest character in the War for Cybertron series, Mirage. So according to the book, the way the Autobots are able to keep the Ark hidden from the Decepticons is thanks to Mirage. I don't know how he does it, but according to the book, Mirage is the only thing that's keeping the Ark from being spotted by the Seekers. And the book also goes more in depth on his beef with Impactor, which honestly I didn't really understand when I first saw it on screen, but now that the book explains it, I think it makes more sense. So I'm gonna read this segment from the book itself. Mirage was born into high society. Impactor comes from the Energon slave mines. Their desperate backgrounds obscure how alike they are. It turns out that the rivalry also had vibes of, rich kid fighting, a kid that, basically was born into poverty and turned into crime vibe, which has further created a rift between those two when they first encounter each other. Now another cool fact that the book throws around, turns out that Prowl and Barricade used to be teammates. So they used to serve together in the Cybertronian police force back in Praxis before the war started. But then of course their little friendship broke apart once Barricade joined the Decepticons and Prowl chose to remain with the Autobots. But I'm really glad that we have the little connection between those two going around. So much like his G1 counterpart, Skyward has the ability to teleport. Why didn't he use it to dodge Jetfire's blast or to reach Starscream quicker is beyond me, but hey, he has it. So in this continuity, apparently Thundercracker is the muscle of the Seekers. This Thundercracker is more brawn than brain. He gets described as being very powerful, maybe not as strong as Starscream, but the book does imply that he's pretty up there in the power rankings, at least in terms of the Seekers. So it turns out that Megatron's Colosseum was the place where Megatron used to have gladiator fights back in the day, before he rose to prominence to become the leader of the Decepticons. Also, interesting thing about the quote-unquote little building, the book states that it's 63 square kilometers long, which, to put that in comparison, is actually bigger than the island of Manhattan. Yeah, that thing is huge. Also, I don't think I mentioned this, but originally Springer was supposed to be in the show. Well, yes and no. According to the book, Springer had, was actually planned to appear, but it was more an idea by part of one of the writers. It wasn't like Springer appearing on the show was a thing that was set straight from the beginning. Originally, he was supposed to appear halfway through the series with all of our reinforcements, like a Lord of the Rings moment where, Gandalf shows up with reinforcements. Not saying that this made it far into development, this was just an idea one of the writers had, and I think it was shut down pretty quickly, but I mean, it would have been cool to see Springer on the show, Now, I don't know if I'm reading this wrong, but it says, but for the book by character section, it says that Bugbite has a distinctive hand cannon. Now I checked the book images carefully and I'll be honest, this does not look like a hand cannon. And the book even calls it distinctive even though Exhaust is the same exact weapon model. So either this is an unused concept that didn't make it onto the series, or this is just an unused special gun for Bugbite that just made it into the book. And you know, when he mentions a hand cannon, I think more of his toy where he has an actual cannon in his hands. Now that's distinctive. So maybe it was that piece that was originally gonna make it into the show, but for budget's sake and modeling sake, they just decided to reuse a mercenary gun for him. Also, the book just straight up confirms that Bugbite and Exhaust are pretty much dead. So for those of you who were kind of wondering that maybe they just got knocked out or, you know, floating in space, still alive. No, they're dead. They got one-shotted by Cog, so... Okay. So a question a lot of people have had about Earthrise when it comes to characters being alive or dead is the Coneheads. What happened to the Coneheads? Now, apparently the book actually confirms that the Coneheads do survive. And what's crazy is the way they survive. So it turns out that after the mercenaries did the whole rebelling thing against Theseus, and Theseus was very angry at them for that, he does this thing that we saw him do in the show, and he gives the mercenaries one more job, one more chance to work with him. Bugbite and Exhaust are all for it, but the Coneheads actually don't want to work for, you know, a brainwashed double dealer and the mad Theseus. So they opt to leave, and they just do. Theseus lets them leave with no consequence. And I find that kind of wild. You figure that Diesel will be kind of angry that they rebelled and destroyed a bunch of his sentries. Instead, he just rehired the mercenaries and even gave them a chance to continue the contract or not. Maybe this is a whole lot nicer than we originally thought.
Something very interesting about the Quintesson, in the book you can actually see concept art for how the Quintesson was gonna look like in the series. Originally, there was even concept art for him looking very organic, you know, even with a brain exposed. Nothing like the final look for the Quintessons that we saw in Earthrise.
Which kinda leads me to believe that it was probably the production crew of the Cybertron trilogy that came up with the idea of having a Quintesson in the toy line. And then Hasbro adapted that idea and made a toy out of the Quintesson. Because funny story, Elita-1 was never meant to be in the series because she didn't have a toy in Siege. Hasbro had no plans of adding her. It was only by protest of FJ and the production that Elita-1 made it into the show. And a similar thing happened with Galvatron, in which, you know, the crew wanted to add Galvatron to the series, so they made their own Galvatron models for it, and Hasbro saw what they were doing. They were like, I like your stuff, guys. I would like to take that model and make a toy out of it. And then we had Galvatron in the toy line. That's why Galvatron looks a bit different from what he does in G1. Because something you need to understand is that the toys came first and then came the show. However, the show made a few characters first, like Elita-1, Galvatron, and I guess the Quintesson, and then Hasbro was like, yes, we can make toys out of those characters. Give us the concept art, give us the model, and we'll make toys. And they did, and now we have toys for all of those characters respectively. So it looks like the Quintesson was originally not meant to appear on Earthrise, and it was more a result of like the production wanting to add a Quintesson character into the story.
So according to the book, the name of Scorponok's home planet is called Pastel Colony. I'm not sure if it's called that because, you know, the planet kinda, you know, looks like it has pastel colors, a color scheme similar to it, or if it's literally called Welcome to Pastel, the planet, you know? You know what I mean? It's kinda weird. The book doesn't make it clear one way or another.
But the fact that the book keeps like capitalizing the word pastel whenever it appears, it kinda leads me to believe that maybe it's literally called Pastel, which, yeah, okay. Now, this little detail got mentioned in, you know, Nemesis Prime's interview with FJ DeSanto, but originally there were plans to add the, you know, 80s, you know, Earth mode vehicle Optimus Prime to the series. But since, you know, the Autobots landed on prehistoric Earth, the justification for adding that into the series was... But you can actually see plenty of concept art in the book depicting the 80s Optimus Prime, you know, with his Earth vehicle mode parts. So this concept actually made it pretty far into the show.
According to Optimus Prime's character bio, he was actually not born on Cybertron, he was actually born somewhere else. Which kinda makes sense considering that Cybertron by this point was kinda dead. So it's very likely that he was born in some of the other, you know, Transformers colony worlds, which we do know exist in this universe, thanks to the Space Odyssey subline, and even the book confirms it. But it's pretty cool to have confirmation on this, because it does confirm that after the Allspark went gonzo, the rest of the species just started to, you know, evolve to the point they don't need the Allspark or Energon itself to survive, hence for the Maximus and Predacons are born.
Also, the book showcases how Optimus Primal looks without his Beast Mode cable. As you can see here, he kinda looks like the Transformers Energon Optimus Prime a little without, the Beast Mode parts, which is actually pretty cool.
So there has been a lot of confusion around the character of Scorponok in the show, mostly because there's many Scorponoks, so we don't know if, there's a real Scorponok or if all Scorponoks are like the Steve Viacon troopers, like they're all the same and there's not a, distinct one. But turns out there's an actual real Scorponok. That guy we see at the end of the show, that one's actually the real Scorponok.
So yeah, Scorponok's not a mindless being, he's actually an actual character. I'm not gonna read what his character bio says about him actually.
Scorponok is not the smartest of the Predacons, but he's fiercely loyal to Beast Megatron. Though he's considered Beast Megatron's second in command, he's insecure in his position and must assert himself to his teammates, who regard him with disdain. So yeah, Scorponok is an actual person. So in this universe, much like in Transformers Prime, Dark Energon exists and it's actually the blood of Unicron. So it's nice to have that little connection between these two shows. Now, for one of the most shocking things the book reveals, Nemesis Prime and Galvatron don't die at the end of the show. So it turns out that one of the writers mentions that at the end of the show where Unicron has Nemesis and Galvatron right in front of him, he actually doesn't dissolve them or terminate them or disintegrate them. He actually reformats them again. His whole thought process was that when he was a kid, he pictured Megatron got reformatted into Galvatron. What if Galvatron were to get reformatted again? So the whole ending scene of Kingdom was basically a tease for what could probably happen in the future. We don't get a clear answer as to if these two characters fused together, or if they got reformatted, or what type of characters they got reformatted to next. They left that open-ended for the writers that might come in to continue the story. But seemingly these two did not die.
But yeah, I gotta admit that's actually a really cool thing to think about. And anyways, to end this video off, the place where the Autobot Decepticon monument were built at the end of the show actually was where the former Chaos Arena used to stand on for most of the series. The place where Elita-1 and a bunch of characters died, except for Shockwave. Watch my interview. But it's actually a really nice gesture which brings the series full circle. It's like poetry, it rhymes. I genuinely like that touch. I kinda wish the show would have made that clearer, because to me it kinda just looked like they picked some random place to put the monuments on. But the fact that it was in the place where Elita-1 died and where most of the series took place in, puts a nice bow in the series, and I like that actually. The series would have benefited a lot from those little time cards that tell you the time and location the scene is taking place in. Would have made things clearer, I'm just saying. FJ, you're more than welcome to steal that idea for your future series. And that's where I'm gonna stop talking about all the cut content and stuff that they make into the series, because I want to say some stuff for future videos because there's still a lot to talk about, but that should be enough to satiate your curiosity for now.
But yeah, if you get this book, you can expect to see a lot of more concept art, backgrounds, deleted stuff, storyboards, thumbnails, and plenty of other stuff that they didn't make it into the show that, it's just so cool to see, especially since now we have the context of the show in hindsight. We know what made it and what didn't make it. So us just, viewing this stuff is I don't know, it just sparks my curiosity. I mean, I'm like, oh, what if we could have gotten down the show? Oh man, what if they actually went with that idea? It's all very cool and very interesting, and I love this kind of stuff.
But yeah guys, that's pretty much it for the book. Again, it's a very cool read. Very thankful to Best Media and the people who reach out to me to give it to me. It's it was a very fun read, and as a Transformers fan, I really appreciate. And as an art aficionado, I like it even more for all the cool stuff that you can just find in here about some of the characters. And getting a closer look at some of these amazing pieces of art that we only got some small glimpses at is actually insane. So if you're still on the fence about this, again, it's up to you. We're not forcing anyone. I think it's a fun read, and if my job was just to review it, and I definitely do think it's worth your time, especially if you're a Transformers fan. But yeah guys, out of all the stuff I mentioned that got unused or cut from the series, what was the one thing you wish would have stayed for the series? Personally, I wish the planet hopping for Earthrise actually stayed in the show, because that would have been really cool, and also the idea of Springer coming with all of our reinforcements would have also been really cool and exciting to see, because everyone loves just seeing more characters. But the problem is that a series like this is already expensive enough, and adding more characters, making more CG models and stuff like that takes a little time, money, and effort that, you know, the production was very limited at. So I'm actually very understanding as to why some of these things got cut. But hey, it's all part of the creative process, and honestly, I think they did the best with what they had. And this book especially just like gives you an extra insight of, you know, some of the struggles, decision making they took when making this series. And in all honesty, for someone who didn't really like the Cybertron trilogy that much, I appreciated it more now. I still won't die on a hill for it. Mark my words, FJ. I still stand by that. But overall, you just get to appreciate this stuff more when you get like a really cool, like in-depth inside look at these things. So yeah, honestly, if you haven't got the book yet, I highly recommend it. But yeah guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Again, thank you to Best Media for sending this to me. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoy my dissecting / review / breakdown of this book, because it was really cool and there was so much stuff to talk about. And honestly, as someone who's like very into the lore of the Transformers, this was honestly a field day for me. So that was actually pretty fun. It gets a thumbs up from me. But anyways guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully you'll enjoy. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Stay safe guys. Be helmet. Say bye.
Anyways guys, before we go, shout out to our amazing Patreons: Xavier the God, Stitch Productions, Scrub Lordo, Allspark Studios, Epic Nin, Lord Racer, Transformers Gears and Brawn, that's still quite a long name, Up to Nation Reviews, Joshua, James Newbold, Predator King Hunter Plays, Omega Tryon 2006, go check out his YouTube channel, and Namekai. And a bigger shout out to our even bigger Patreons, Jordan the Great and XNor23, who donated a amount of money. By donating to my Patreon, you get quite a few rewards. You get to collab with me in some of my videos that you so choose to. You can request some artwork from me, request some videos from me, get exclusive early access to some videos I haven't made public yet, as well as a variety of other projects and videos that I'm secretly working in the background. So consider donating if it interests you. Also, you're gonna get a shout out to your YouTube channel, and link to it will be in the description down below. Be sure to check out these guys that need all the help they can get to raise their YouTube channels, but keep in mind that this is entirely optional, because freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Thank you guys again for donating, it's much appreciated, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Stay safe guys.